I found a fix for my RV frame and it doesn't require any welding, and I'm going to show you how this all works. I'm David.
I'm Tanya.
And we've lived in our RV for 2 years with our family traveling the country. Well, I'm going to show you how to install this. Like I said, no welding.
Yeah, you got this.
I was worried about what these boxes would look like for the springs that were coming in. It looks like there's two 8,000-pound springs, or, well, okay, they're 4,000 a piece, 8,000 per axle, but 2 springs in each of these boxes, and they put handles so you can easily carry this. eTrailer knows what they're doing. Pretty good box for those. Some of the reviews I saw where the boxes were destroyed upon arrival, but you can kind of see where the spring kind of did some damage there, but for the most part, it did its job. Got the springs here. So I'm installing Morryde X-Factor Crossmembers underneath the RV. Now this is something that most RVs don't have, but it's an option that you can get to add to your RV. Now I'm also installing new springs, which I'm upgrading from 7,000-pound springs to 8,000-pound springs, as well as new U-bolts and wet-bolt upgrades with increased size shackles, and I'm replacing the equalizers. I'm also increasing the equalizers to going from 7,000-pound springs to 8,000-pound. They actually had those numbers to match with the equalizers as well. And one thing to not do is don't buy the U-bolts based on the spring size. Buy the U-bolts based on your axle. So I'm doing something a little unorthodox, and I'm keeping my 7,000-pound axles, but I'm going to 8,000-pound springs. So I'm not trying to say I can hold another 1,000 pounds worth of weight in the RV. All I'm trying to do is provide some extra support to those springs to help them make them last longer, as well as hopefully not break on me. Now, as much as I would love to share a video with y'all on the spring install, the equalizer install, a lot of that stuff is the same across the board. So I just wanted to make sure that you did understand about the U-bolts, because a 7,000-pound axle is about 3 inches across, and an 8,000-pound axle is 3.5 inches across. You need that U-bolt to match that size. So the U-bolt size is based on the axle, not the springs. Just make sure that you measure the length of those bolts so they will go around the now bigger springs. The biggest thing I wanted to talk about was the Crossmembers. Morryde X-Factor Crossmembers. What it does is it goes from one side of the RV to the other side of the RV. They mount to the hangers where the springs get connected. What this does is when you turn, you're turning the RV, the spring hangers bend from left to right. And over time, they get wore out, and then those spring hangers snap. They're solid steel, but they break. I've seen them break on just one side. I've seen them break on both sides, and the spring's just hanging there loose now. I'll include some pictures here of some stuff that I've seen online that scared me and made me want to do this. Now, a lot of people, what they do is they will add different welding. They'll add these, I call them a V, to the inside of the hangers. Some people will also add some extra plates to the outside of the hangers. This all requires you to get somebody that's a professional welder to your RV, or you take your RV to a shop where they can do it. But this could be a little bit of a downtime for you, possibly, or it could be tough. I've been struggling to find someone in this area that can do the welding. A friend of mine on Facebook has the exact same RV we do, and he shared one day that he had these Morryde X-Factor Crossmembers, where you literally just bolt them on between the two, and it adds this extra strength, shares the load across the RV, cuts the possible bending of the hangers by 93%, I believe is what Morryde claims, strengthening your hangers by 93% with no welding. Now, everything I've seen online up to this point has showed these Crossmembers, the bracket on the end welded in place. Well, I got the new ones, and they actually made it so they're bolt-on. which makes this much easier. So this bracket right here, the wet bolt for your spring goes right through that hole right there. And then there's two smaller bolts that go around the hangers right here with another strap that's on the other side of it, kind of holding it in place, plus the wet bolt through the middle. So you can do everything as far as putting your springs on, putting your wet bolts on. You can do all that with just this, and then you can come back and bolt this in place with those holes right there, making this a much easier install than the past ones were. They also have some other adapters, so if you need this to drop down about 6 inches, they have a different bracket in the end that can also be added in based on what your RV needs. One of the things that I really need to discuss with everybody, because I made a mistake and now I have to undo a bunch of work to correct my mistake. This is more of the standard wet bolt right here. It's a wet bolt because it's got that hole right there, and this is, I believe it's called a Xerx. You can connect a grease gun to this and put the red number 2 grease into there, making this all basically slimy so it can easily turn around without seizing up. We used this one and had to go through the springs, through the hangers, and come out, and it was a little short. I was able to get it all torqued down just right, but then the nut going around that end of the screw didn't quite come out all the way. And on top of that, my equalizer and my springs didn't move freely, and I found that that was kind of troubling. Well, we got it all done. My neighbor Sam was helping me out. Thank you so much, Sam. Sam is a level 2 tech that has not worked yet on the suspension, and this was an opportunity for him to get some experience without having to buy all this equipment, so that he can add that to his belt and be able to do work. This bolt came with the X Factor Crossmember. It's considerably longer. As you can see the 2 links right there. And we put it in at first, but then there was so much extra space we couldn't tighten it down. We thought, this is kind of odd. Now we're going back and forth between 3 different instruction books because I had 3 different kits. I had the equalizer, had its own instruction. I had the wet bolt install, had their own instruction. And then I had the X Factor Crossmember instructions. They all had their own instructions. So I missed out on the part where it said, take this washer, which is heavy duty steel, and add it right there. We were literally all assembled when we realized this, and we're like, look at that. When I add that there, it gives the perfect amount of space. If only I had read that instruction book all the way through to begin with, everything would have been fine. We have everything torqued down. Probably the worst part is the U-bolts are on and torqued down to 90 foot-pounds of pressure. It is quite the workout to work on those U-bolts. At 90 foot-pounds of pressure, I'm getting all my back workout. I've been sore for the last 48 hours from this. Well, now I have to go undo it all so that I can get the proper bolt and this washer put in place so everything works right. So I wanted to share that with y'all to make sure that y'all understand. Read your instructions all the way through and watch videos that walk you through this stuff. Now, as far as videos, springs, equalizers, wet bolts, I'm going to put some links down below to my friend Sean, who does a great job with maintenance on his RV, and he's got some terrific videos on this exact matters. So we're going to reference Sean for the installation of springs, equalizers, and wet bolts. Once I get this all done, I'm filming inside right now because it's a windy day again. Texas, it's either muggy, rainy, or windy. And right now it's windy. I'm filming in here. But I'm going to go get to work, and I will show you what this looks like when we've got it done. I am down here where we've got everything taken apart. Well, not everything taken apart, but the tires are still off. Pretty much everything is put together. I'm still working on torquing stuff down. I was just torquing these right here. Now these are a part of the Crossmembers, the Morryde X Factor Crossmembers. This right here is called the strap, which got these sleeves right here, and then it's bolted through there. There is the wet bolt right there. That is what goes through the spring. Now it's a longer wet bolt that came with the Morryde Crossmember. It was a little interesting as you've got all these extra nuts and bolts in here to get in there and actually torque that down. I probably could have torqued it before inserting the rest of the crossmember, but we decided, since I made some mistakes, and because of my mistakes, I had to take almost everything back apart again and redo it. And one of the things we found was just getting everything connected could be kind of tough. So our first time around, everything was torqued over here, and on the other side, we couldn't even get the springs connected to the axle. So my second time through, we didn't torque anything. We just connected stuff, but left it kind of loose. That way you could actually move springs or move axles to get them in place so they would all connect. This time around, these were already connected before torquing this. Now I'm just kind of working my way backwards. I'm almost done. Last things I have to do are torque down these U-bolts right here. This is an interesting upgrade that not too many people do. Usually people will they'll match the axles to the springs. I was at the Alliance factory where they build Alliance Valors and heard him say that they have 7,000 pound axles, but they put 8,000 pound springs on the Alliances. And that's when it went into my head, hey, I could just upgrade the springs, right? And I've been able to do that, but you gotta make sure that these U-bolts right here match this axle. Because if you go with 8,000 pound U-bolts, there will be a 1/2 inch extra space right there, and then that's not gonna work because your axles will be rattling all over the place, and that would be horrific. What I mainly wanna keep talking about in this video is this crossmember. So I bought 3 of them. They were $150 a piece. So there's the rear, the middle, and there's the ones on the front. And those are hanger to hanger, left to right. Now the eTrailer guy, I was watching the install video, he recommended if you just want to buy one, put it in the middle. If you want to buy just 2, put it in the middle and the rear, because he was saying the front leaf hangers usually receive the least amount of stress. Because as you're turning your truck and your trailer, and these tires are bending side to side, these ones tend to get the most stress side to side, which then causes these to snap and break, like right there. So what this is doing is, as this is trying to bend now, it's sharing the load across, trying to cut down on how much these move and keeping them more rigid. So hopefully that makes everything stay connected and not break down, and keeps us on the road longer, and hopefully not having to deal with breakdowns on the side of a highway. And another note too, this is actually a lot easier if you're able to do the entire RV at once. Now I know not everybody's got 6 leveling jacks built into their RV. I don't know that it was such a great idea to be relying solely on those to hold the RV up. I'm sure somebody will say, don't ever do that. I had a little more faith in my system since we have 6 and not 4. Every night I'm trying to put pressure on these jacks to just kind of add a little support there when we were done for the day and make sure it was holding the RV up. So the biggest thing that drew me to these Morryde X Factor crossmembers was that I didn't have to weld. I'm sure you can all look at my nice rusty frame and rusty hangers and be like, man, you need to do some work there. Yeah, I would agree. I need to do some work there, that's for sure. Maybe I'll get down here and just spray, grind some of this away and do some of that spray, paint spray that can help stop rust. We'll see. Maybe that'll happen here in the next few months. But at any rate, I didn't have to track down a welder to come to my RV site and weld extra strength to these hangers. Be looking forward to sharing with y'all if this is successful. I mean, obviously, if this is successful, it's going to be an uneventful video in the future. If it's not successful, then I'll definitely be telling y'all, man, those things did not help me and I wasted my money. So hopefully we don't go in that path. So I've got the job all done. The wheels are back on the RV. You can see it over there. I'm about ready to lower the RV to put pressure back on them. But real quick, I just wanted to show y'all what was used in this job. Now this is the overall job. Adding wet bolts, upgrading the springs to 8,000 pounds, changing out the equalizer, as well as adding the Morryde X Factor crossmembers. So you won't need all these tools if you want to add just the crossmembers. You could cut that down quite a bit by what you needed to use. But like this right here could handle 1 axle at a time. Even the 12-ton even wasn't all that necessary. The 8-ton could handle it as far as just the axle. Whether or not that could lift the RV, that's another question. But here's all the different sockets, 1/2 inch, 11/16. Those are definitely needed, as well as 13/16 when you're changing out the wet bolt, because you're going to get a bigger wet bolt that goes with the Crossmember. So you will need to change those out. I started with just this big 1/2 inch drive torque wrench, and it was so big that it got in the way most of the time. So I went and got this smaller 3/8 drive torque wrench to handle some of the smaller jobs. That made it go a lot faster. Mallet definitely will come in handy, as well as the screwdrivers. Not always necessarily unscrewing or screwing something, but used to pry things open. Hammer came in handy when you need to get out the old wet bolts. Just a couple good hits on there will get those right out. And then once you get everything put on, you're going to need a grease gun so that you can add some grease into those wet bolt locations. Now, this is everything that I had, but this isn't the job on its own. I actually got some help from the neighbors. These right here came from our friends, both Sam, who's right next door. He's a level 2 tech that jumped in and helped me out quite a bit on this job. And then Rick from across the street also, he donated his bottle jack and his jack stands back there. Now, those 3-ton jacks handled holding the axles just fine. Whether or not I would use those to actually hold the RV, I'm not sure. I don't even know if 4 tons would have been enough. But the real winner of all the help was this beast right here. That's what we kept calling it, the beast. This DeWalt impact driver with a 1/2 inch drive right there. This thing, you got to be careful. If you got something that's very delicately needs to be torqued down, you don't want to use this thing to drive it on there, because you may strip out the bolt, which not be good. Man, I want one of these things, because when it comes time to take a tire off, this just takes any torque out of those lug nuts that was on there. Somebody sees a dog coming by. At any rate, it saved me a lot of time. So Sam loaning me the beast was a huge help and time saver, because if I had to use my breaker bar here to get the wheels off, that probably would have been at least 30 extra minutes, plus a lot more strength out of me. This job totally zapped my energy. There was a lot of work going into this, especially when you're torquing stuff down to 90 foot-pounds or 120 foot-pounds. It's a lot of work. Thanks again to everybody that helped out on this. It was really great. I appreciate it. But one last pass of those tools. We have made it to our next destination after I did the upgrades on the suspension, and I'm happy to report after about 215 miles of driving that everything is still connected. The RV made it down the road just fine. So, hey, that's all a plus, right? I will try to periodically just kind of check back on this and let everybody know how things went with the suspension, but right now I am still super happy that I added 3 of those Morryde X-Factor Crossmembers to strengthen up those leaf hangers. Thanks again for watching our videos. We really are happy that you all come back here and watch these videos. If it's your first time, maybe you would consider hitting the subscribe button. And if you click the like button, it tells YouTube somebody liked this video. If you don't like the video, just hit the down arrow or the down thumb 2 times. Thanks again for watching our video. Remember that life happens, even maintenance actions that happen to everything. Don't let that stop you. Stay fresh, cheese bags.